This is the 9th installment in a series of videos designed to make a statement about religion on the Cheyenne River Reservation. If you want to see videos 1 through 8, you can click the links at the bottom of this video. The purpose of these videos is to demonstrate that there is a fundamental difference between Christianity and the traditional religion. In each video, you are invited to listen to what I have to say, compare it to your own knowledge, and then draw your own conclusions. In our last video, we discussed how the Christian view of humanity is that we are the most honored of all of God's creations, having been given a little bit of His own Spirit and placed in authority over all the rest of creation. Today, we will be discussing how Christianity also views our human nature as being the source of great shame. It is our belief that all humans share a common ancestry, tracing their lineage back to the original two people, Adam and Eve, Genesis 3:20. At the time of their creation, Adam and Eve were living in a world very different from the place that we now inhabit. Sickness, death, aging, violence, doubt, distrust, desperation, hatred, and fear were all completely foreign to them. For God's world, in its original design, contained no suffering and no evil. Genesis 1 through 3, but especially Genesis chapter 1, verse 31. God's relationship with humans at the time was like a loving father to his children. Theirs was an extremely close and easy relationship. But like all parents, God gave our ancestors some rules to follow. One rule, to be specific. And that rule was very easy to follow. Genesis chapter 2, verses 16 through 17. But our ancestors would not obey that rule or any other, Genesis chapter 3. And that was the beginning of sin. The concept of sin is extremely important in Christianity. Sin happens whenever we as humans do what goes against the will of God. Whenever we think or speak or act in a way that we want instead of the way that honors God, sin is the result. Whenever we act or think or speak in a way that goes against what God wants, that is called sin. Sin takes many forms, but it always ends with us becoming separated from God. When our ancestors sinned, a very terrible thing occurred. The world, which they had been placed in charge of, fell under a terrible curse. Sickness, death, and pain became an everyday occurrence, Genesis chapter 3, verses 17 through 19. Our ancestors' spirits, which carried the image of God Himself, became twisted and evil, and they disobeyed God more and more often. They began to grow old and eventually died, Genesis 5:5. And the curse of sin only became worse. When our ancestors had children, those children inherited their parents' desire to disobey God and do things their own way. Adam and Eve's firstborn son became the first murderer, Genesis chapter 4, verse 8. As the generations passed, the evil of our ancestors became more and more horrifying. Every descendant of Adam and Eve carries this curse of sin with them, and their sin separates them from God. Our sin drives ourselves and everyone around us into absolute misery. Romans chapter 7, verses 15 through 20 and 24 through 25. A casual glance at the world around us shows the terrible things that evil has caused in this world, and an honest look inside ourselves reveals that a share of that evil lives in each of us. Nothing other than a miracle from God can ever restore us to our former glory. So now I put these questions to you. According to your understanding, is the traditional religion like this? Does the traditional religion teach that mankind is twisted and wicked, and that no one is truly good all the way through? Does the traditional religion teach that all the pain in the world is the responsibility of human beings caused by our disobedience to God? If the traditional religion does teach this, then it has something in common with Christianity. But if it does not teach this, then the traditional religion is not the same as Christianity. Consider what I have said and draw your own conclusions.